What's going on, guys? This is Mr. Teej, 66 Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks since my last movie review. I kind of got sick and was in the hospital, so I was in no condition to do any kind of movie reviews. But I'm better, and I'm back with a vengeance, baby. Back with a vengeance. And today's movie review, I decided to do 1999's Fight Club. Now, I saw this movie when it first came out in the theaters, and oh, wait, no, I didn't see it in the theaters. What am I saying? I heard about it, but I didn't actually see it. I think I may have been too young, maybe. My parents were very strict about ratings, but I, of course, heard all about it, and I saw it on HBO a shit ton of times. I mean, back in the day before the internet, before streaming, or before the internet became as popular as it is now, there was just cable, and man, this movie played nearly every fucking day. I mean, I watched it, I must have watched it like 30 times, so I got kind of sick of it. So I hadn't seen this movie since probably like 2002 or so. So it was in the DVD or Blu-ray bin at Walmart, and I thought, I need to take another look at this movie, and wow, this movie has aged beautifully. I mean, a few 90s things here and there, which I'll get to, but just the themes it addresses, individualism, greed, our consumer culture, it's still very, very relevant stuff. It's beautifully directed by David Fincher, who has gone on to do many other films, but I still think this is probably my favorite movie of his. It's immensely quotable. I forgot how funny the film is. It's I would almost classify this as like a fantasy comedy drama. It's a very hard film to actually categorize, which I love. The greatest films are like you can't really summarize them in just a few simple sentences. There's just so much to this movie. It's very well directed, kind of an MTV style, but I think David Fincher does a good job of not overdoing it and letting the story get covered up in the visuals. Music is fantastic by the Dust Brothers. It's kind of techno beat, dance music, but it fits the tone of the direction, which is very MTV style. So that's I think it works very well. Performances. I mean, this is Brad Pitt's movie. This may be the single greatest performance he's ever given, and I mean he's done some great work before, but Tyler Durden is he is the villain of the film. But I can't help but like him to the very end, even when dastardly things start happening, he is completely charismatic, he has a reason for everything he does, and I never really hated him in anything he did. Edward Norton should not be sidelined, though. He is absolutely fantastic, too. He's, the narrator, he's our window into the whole thing. His the voiceover in this movie is some of the best voiceover I've ever heard. His dry, deadpan, just mumblings on, office life. There's an element of Office Space to this movie, it satirizes the office culture, which brilliantly, I mean, I've never worked in an office, so I can't say, but it probably is that dull and boring. Helen Bonham Carter is also great. One of the great things about her performance is she kind of has to walk a thin line between, should I spoil the movie? Okay, I'm going to have to spoil the ending, so spoiler warning coming if you haven't seen this movie before, but it turns out Brad Pitt is just a figment of Edward Norton's imagination. Edward Norton's character is Tyler Durden, and he's got, a split personality. He's talking to himself, and I remember the first time I saw the movie, I just was floored. I mean, The Sixth Sense had just come out, because I'm spoiling The Sixth Sense too, but The Sixth Sense had come out a couple weeks ago and had done something very similar, but I think it's just as effective here. I mean, you watch the movie again, and you notice people's reactions to Edward Norton, looking at him like, what is wrong with this guy? Because he's talking to himself. He's a lunatic. He's, got two personalities. There's so many layers. You watch the movie again, and you see the reactions, how Helen Bonham Carter plays her scenes with Edward Norton. The first time you watch it, you just think, oh, she just doesn't like him. She thinks he's jealous, and you realize, no, she actually is confused, okay, he just fucked me, and now he's completely blowing me off, but it works on two different levels. Her performance is actually one of the more better ones in the film, because she has to walk two layers, a fine line between, making us believe the first time we watch it that she's in love with two guys, and then it turns out, no, she's in love with the same guy who is two different personalities. Absolutely fantastic movie. I can't say enough. There's a few dated 90s things. There's a part where they go into Blockbuster and start erasing all the tapes. Obviously, it doesn't exist anymore. A few, payphones, those don't exist anymore. A few things here and there which kind of date it, but not to the point where I'm like, or at least to me, where I'm like, oh, God. The only other flaw I can think of in the film is Jared Leto is a little dull. I don't know why he's fourth billed, because his character doesn't really do much of anything. He's just kind of a generic guy, and he just, he's a good actor, and I feel like he was wasted. Although he has a great makeup job later in the film, which I won't spoil. it makes him look like a monster out of like a universal horror film or something. The gore in this movie is off the chains. If you don't like blood and gore, don't watch this movie because it is it is gory as hell. People get punched in the face, blood flying everywhere. So many great one-liners. Of course, the most famous rules in the history of film. First rule of Fight Club: you do not talk about Fight Club. For second rule of Fight Club: you do not talk about Fight Club. And also I like. You don't know where I've been, Lou! The part where Luke, the owner of the tavern where they're having the Fight Club, comes in and beats the shit out of Brad Pitt. Great scene. Overall, one of the best films in the 90s. It's aged very well. There's so much to think about in this movie. There's so many themes that I could just go on for hours and hours, but I don't really have the time. But I would absolutely give this movie like a 9.6. I'll say a 9.5. A few dated things, and Jared Leto is kind of and it really doesn't go anywhere. But overall, yeah, 9.5. This movie's a blast. I mean, every 90s kid has seen this movie multiple times. But, if you're a millennial, you should definitely check this movie out because it really says a lot about, then and now, the consumer culture we have now. I think it's aged beautifully and contains Brad Pitt's finest performance. I can't believe he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this movie. But overall, that's my review of Fight Club. This is Mr. T66, and I will see you next time.